We're gonna join you guys on the Zoom. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
All right, first thing, housekeeping. This is a judgment-free zone. So if you don't eat organic, if you don't recycle, if you don't compost, if you kill plants, no judgment from me. I don't want any of this to feel like there's a judgment about the way you choose to live your life. You know, I have to make choices every day about how I live my life. I can't eat all organics, I can't afford it. I do the best I can. And I try to learn and I try to make better choices for Mother Earth every day. But I'm not perfect. I mean, I drive a car, you know, I don't ride a bike, and I have to fly for work, and you know, I have been in permaculture classes before where I have felt judged for not being the perfect hippie, but in this space, no judgment, and an invitation to curiosity. We have people from all different backgrounds and places and levels of experience and interest. And if you hear something that is different from what you prefer or know, rather than responding with judgment, perhaps try responding with curiosity. Huh, that's interesting. Can you tell me more about that? I think that's a good way to go. So you may have seen this image if you went back to school. If you went to school a while ago, it's just like what I saw in my college, not college, like high school. I don't know when, sometime in school textbook. I don't know. So this is what a textbook says when you're looking at taxonomy and classification of living systems on planet Earth. This is it. There's all sorts of life. Little more intricate view, interdependent systems. All these different animals in nature have an interdependent relationship. This is a little more accurate. I like this one a little better, but I'm still not happy with it. Little more recent one, scientific point of view, maybe. Humans versus animals, it says. And it's got all these surprising similarities that we share with animals in the animal world. Isn't that amazing? Still not happy with it. Mammals in Nevada. This is a really lovely image. There's all kinds of animals in Nevada, mammals in particular. But I am also not happy with this image because they left out. It's no mystery that we are living in an age where we are so disconnected from nature. We were raised, I don't know if it was on purpose or by accident, to think that we are not a part of nature. If it wasn't on purpose, then all the textbooks left out humans out of every single part of the living system. And that baffles me, even the list of mammals in Nevada. I am a mammal and I'm in Nevada. So the thing is, we are nature. It always surprises me when I meet people, and I'm sorry if you're one of them, and I'm not trying to pick on you, who don't care about their environment. I don't think we have any of those people in this room, but we are the environment. I'm not separate from, or some people think like the environment's outside and I'm in here. But that is not true. We are nature, and we are completely interdependent on everything. Animals, plants, fungi, minerals, stars, everything is connected. And so because we have this way of thinking that has unfolded in the sciences, and I'm a scientist, so I'm to blame too. We have designed all of our systems in a way where we think we're disconnected. And that is not working so well. And all of our cycles of nature are damaged and not functioning the way they were meant to, because we think we're separate from nature. This is a quote, Jacques Cousteau: "We forget that the water cycle and the life cycle are one. In fact, all cycles are one." We've all heard of the water cycle, but there's other cycles going on. Carbon cycle, nitrogen, phosphorus, sun. I mean, yeah, menstrual, moon cycles, cycles of I'm having good days and I'm having bad days, and all of the cycles are one. I'm focused on the water portion of the cycle as a water specialist, and John McKewa calls me a water maiden, and that's a beautiful, he's Hopi Tewa elder. And so I'm just really honored that he has deemed me that. But we're mostly made of water. And so it's interesting to me when we think, oh, the environment's out there, but I'm 70% or so water, depending on age. Babies are wetter, older people are more dried out, until we lose all of our water and in the very end, and then become one with the cycle again. Okay, so this is some numbers back to grade school. Most of the water is in oceans. About 97% of the water is salt water in the oceans, not available for our human uses because the salt is not amenable to life for us. About 2%, that's changing every day in glaciers and caps. Frozen, not accessible for human use. About 1% of the water is fresh water in rivers, lakes, streams, wetlands, groundwater. All of the water that we use for our human uses is in this 1% of water. Now, this is a statistic you may not have gotten in school. Oh yeah, no, this one. Yeah, we're mostly water. 72% about, depending on age. One half of the water that's fresh water since the industrial age has been polluted. We have 1/2 of 1% of water on the planet that's clean and available for human use. And that number is going down every day. I studied it in detail. It was very depressing. So if the water cycle and the life cycle are one, and we're 72% water, and half of the water that's fresh is polluted, what does that mean for us as humans on this planet? So this is a little bit of the idea of like the water cycle, but the interdependent cycles that tie humans into everything, because humans are tied to every cycle on the planet. This is a natural water cycle. You probably have seen a picture like this in a school book at some point. You know, the rain falls and goes across the land and ends up in the ocean and evaporates, and some goes into the ground, and it's just this nice little cycle. The reality is we have accidentally interrupted the water cycle. And so this urban water cycle is a little more of what's going on. We have paved a lot of areas. We've caused compaction on a lot of pasture lands. We have changed ecosystems by human behavior, things like fencing and grazing and land management practices, wildfire management. And so we have a water cycle that's disconnected. Much less water goes back into the ground and infiltrates because of all of the hardscapes. When the water doesn't infiltrate, it ends up in a casino or flooding or killing someone, unfortunately, because the water has no place else to go. And so permaculture is about helping us return to a little more natural of a cycle. Permaculture can help us return to a little more natural of a cycle in all of the cycles. And we'll cover all of the cycles over the course of the 24 classes. This is not a surprise. Our relationship with water is not very healthy. We pave it, pipe it, and pollute it. We send it somewhere else. We buy it for very inexpensively, considering that our life depends on it. And we don't treat it very well. But there's another relationship with water, and that's an Indigenous view of water, and probably the view everyone has here of water. But it's a interdependent understanding of water. This image was drawn by a person from the Toitacata tribe here in Nevada. Toitacata, the Paiute people here, call themselves for the food they eat. And so there's Kiwi Takata, which is Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe. They eat kiwi, which is this ugly endangered fish in Pyramid Lake, but they eat it. They also have a Lahontan cutthroat trout there. And this is Toitacata. There's Tabusi Takata, which is the tuber part of a grass that they're grass nut eaters, Tabusi Takata. This is from Toitacata. Toitacata tribe lives in the wetland in Fallon, Nevada. If you've never heard of it, it's called Stillwater. And it's in the middle of what, the 40-mile desert and the 50-mile desert. I don't know why they called it that. They could have called it the 90-mile desert, but it's in the middle of those two. And it was on the Overland Trail, and it was one of the stops there. And the people who live there call themselves cattail eaters. And so they have a very intimate relationship with the cycle of water and the wetland plants there.
Carmen, are you able to explain what the
In the image, I asked her to explain the picture to me, and she did, but it was like, well, it was like 10 years ago. You know, I don't remember, but that the image is of an elder and a young person in the wetland gathering, winnowing pine nuts. So they're pine nut eaters, but they have to travel very far to get to pine nuts because they're in a valley. Pine nuts are in the mountain. The pine nut range where the families go, every family has their own place that they go. So they would go up to that same place in the mountains every year, gather pine nuts and medicines. And I've gotten to go out with them before, and it's very sappy and a lot of fun. But yeah, for her, it was the reconnection and the communication of wisdom between the elders and the children, and how that cycle is the cycle of life. And it's all revolving around the wetland. Okay, so just a little bit. So we talked about the problems. I mean, there's many more problems. I mean, name a few. Problems with humans being removed from nature. What have we done? Food system is reliant on fossil fuels. and poisoning us or poisoning the soil. Pollinators, everything's endangered. Our bees, our butterflies, bats, yes.
Our mental health.
Absolutely. Mine has. I grew up on the Navajo Reservation near Peabody Coal Mine. My lung issues are probably because I grew up by a coal mine. And they would take the coal and they took all the groundwater so they could slurry the coal here to Las Vegas so they could turn on the lights. So my health has been damaged. My family was relocated from the land. A lot of people think like relocation happened a long time ago when reservations were created. My family was relocated when I was in high school. Forced relocation. And my whole family has suffered for it. We used to have cornfields, hogans, the houses we lived in, cows, cattle, sheep. My grandma was a rug weaver. When they moved, they were allowed to keep 2 cows. The family cannot, that's not enough. That's not enough for a whole family to live on. And I have dealt with mental health issues my whole life. I have depression and PTSD that I struggle with all the time. And I was telling Ian, I still think about the spring I used to go play at when I was a kid, and I was so happy. And I still cry when I think about it because it's gone. The spring dried up. And we are all somehow disconnected from the land. We have all lost that relationship. And it's such a vital part of who we are. Native people know it very clearly, but it's all of us. We're a part of nature and children of Mother Earth. And when we're disconnected from that, it's a soul level disconnection. The great thing is we can heal. And we can do it together. So permaculture is an ethical design system. It is a design methodology, a whole systems design methodology. So it's not just organic gardening or being a hippie, singing good songs, or it's looking at the way we live on this earth and figuring out how to live in a way that isn't damaging nature and actually is helping things to grow and be more resilient and more robust and regenerative. So we rely on these ethics in permaculture. Earth care, people share and fair share are the way it's often termed. Earth care is number one. Our number one goal is care for the earth. Everything we have comes from the earth. Without the earth, we have nothing. Without our soil, we have nothing. Without our water, which we may discover pretty soon here in Vegas, we have nothing. The party stops, And so, number one, care for the earth. Number two, caring for each other. Care for ourselves, care for each other. It's basically the prime directive of permaculture and our responsibility as humans on this planet. Fair share, I like to think of as, well, take what you need, but not more. And what is left in the abundance, used to support the other 2 ethics. Return the abundance that nature has given us to continue caring for the earth and caring for each other. If we make a decision and we're wanting to have a permaculture designed garden, and we're not caring for the earth, like if I'm using pesticides that are poisoning things, then I might want to revisit that decision, And if I'm not caring for other people in the work I'm doing, we might want to revisit that decision. We want to meet all 3 ethics. Is our highest goal. If we've done that, we've done our work well. permaculture, I mean, I said it's a lot more than just gardening. Permaculture can be used to design all aspects of human living. And so at the core, we have the ethics and the principles, which you have a handout of. And if you don't have a handout, I'll bring more next week as well. And then we will make this information available on our website eventually. But if you want a copy, you can always email me. I can send you the materials and slides as well. But at some point, we'll have the website set up. Well, I'll be on our website. So the top bubble is sort of where gardening lands. But really, it's land and nature stewardship. Building, how the buildings we live in. We're in a brick building. Brick buildings absorb a lot of heat. So it's interesting that we're in a brick building in Las Vegas, being that it's one of the hottest building materials and it's getting hotter. So natural building is a thing in permaculture, and is building with more natural materials. The natural materials that the Southwest Indigenous people built with were very cool. Hogans, when you go into a Hogan, Navajo home built with like logs and mud, it is so cool in the summer. It's really comfortable. Tools and technologies. The technology is not bad. I mean, we are nature, and we're very smart species in nature. Penny likes to think of us as a keystone species, and would like to us to return to our role as a keystone species on this planet. But the appropriate use of our tools and technologies to support the work that we're doing. Education, our education systems, all those first slides that were nature that I showed you came out of education systems. And so maybe we need to rethink how we think about education, culture, our health, spiritual, physical well-being. This is always a surprise. Our economies and finance. They're not very sustainable. Credit, inflation, debt. We have designed some really unsustainable systems that aren't equitably benefiting the earth and people. They're benefiting a few people, but it's not fair share. So rethinking how we trade with each other, how we exchange with each other, and governance, how we govern ourselves can be designed with permaculture in mind. So some of the tools in the toolbox of a permaculture designer, I mean, there's a lot of tools. The tools are what works, what meets the ethics and what works. But some of the tools that are a little more familiar, like harvesting rainwater, we'll get into these in detail over the course of the class. But using renewable energies, successive planting, or the idea of succession in an ecosystem, helping an ecosystem to become more mature and more complex and more resilient over time. Gray water systems. I love gray water. Black water systems. That's getting a little more out there, but yes, they can be well designed, and they've been funded here in the state of Nevada by state environmental. They want to see these things. Community building, probably one of my favorite things in permaculture is all my friends. Microclimates, using our microclimates and developing microclimates. So we have a wider variety of things that we can do on the landscape. Swales gets its own bubble because it's such a popular one, but not my favorite water harvesting technique in the desert. Soil building. This winter, we're going to do a lot of soil building here in preparation for the future work. Food forests or polycultures. So if you think of what is that Priestess Garden? What do they call that? Companion planting. So certain plants like other plants and they grow better if they're next to their friends, like kind of like us. Polyculture and food forests are similar, but it also brings in all the elements. So animals is a part of a guild, and trees and shrubs and insects. So designing the whole ecosystem. Microorganisms, oh my gosh, yes. So these are just a few tools in our toolbox of permaculture. And our principles. So this is a little bit different list of the principles than the one that you have. There's kind of two versions out there. So pick whichever one you want. They're both good. But when we're designing any element of what we're working with, we try to use these principles and we try to use as many as possible. So observe and interact. We got to do that today with nature. We got to observe. Step 2 would be interact. Go out and poke it and see what happens. Go out and move it. Go out and have a relationship with it. Catch and store energy. That is, say we have the energy of sun coming across our landscape. We want to catch and store it. I don't want to catch and store it in my building though. I want to block the energy from hitting my building because I don't want my building to get hot. But I want to catch and store that energy in my plants through photosynthesis. Maybe on my solar panel. Is the problem, is the solution on your paper? That's one of my favorite principles. The problem is the solution.
It's more of a slogan.
The slogan now, yeah. So what's a problem, Ian? Where we could think of a solution for?
Water.
We're in the desert and we have a lack of water. What's the solution? Better water management.
Building infrastructure with water in mind.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I think also switching the mentality on it's so bad to, well, it's the best they thought that they could do, and now we're moving better.
Yeah. Do we always not have water? Is that true?
No,
I've never known.
We just have been having water.
we haven't done anything to restore it, so we have this extractive mentality that we've been using and just taking and taking and taking, and now the earth is sick and doesn't want to give anymore. Rightfully so. Is that what you
Yeah,
do?
Penny, my teacher, likes to say it's our bank account. The earth is like our bank account. And we've been taking and taking and taking out of that bank account. Well, you can only do that for so long before your charge gets denied, you know.
But perhaps like people just kind of live in this world and now we're, you know, maybe it's like, oh, you know, you don't get overexcited about it. We're kids, we're young, we just understand, we get excited. We keep it moving. Maybe
That's kind of the industrial age
yeah,
and the age of technology right there. We got a little excited.
But our ancestors.
Yeah,
Our ancestors
every
knew.
civilization on every continent prior knew how to live with this earth and be a part of this earth.
And how long that we haven't known is how long of human history? How much of human history do you the expert?
I'd like maybe 5%.
5% of our time on this earth we forgot. But we have this genetic knowledge in our body of how to live on this planet. You know, if you think of like cats know how to use the litter box almost on their own on like day 3, they are like, they know how to hunt before their eyes are open. They're smacking you with their little deathly claws. We have that same genetic depth of knowledge in our bodies, and we know how to live, but we have sort of been trained out of it temporarily though. So stacking the principles, getting as many principles, working in coordination with each other. So one problem is not enough water in the desert. But that is, but that's not true. We have water. Circa got water the other day. Caesar's Palace got water the other day. So actually, we have the solution causing problems for us right now because we haven't quite figured out how to adapt ourselves to the way nature works yet. It's gonna happen. It has to happen. So, one of the things that makes permaculture different is deep observation. When somebody asks me what I think the one thing is they should learn, or what's the most important thing, what's the first thing they should do, just go sit. Just go sit. Sit every day. Sit outside. Just watch the sun. Watch the stars. Watch what nature does. When we were walking in this landscape, we noticed some things when we were observing. Ian, what are some of the things? We just walked, because even though I'm a board member here, I wasn't looking at this place with the permaculture eyes. I was looking with board member eyes, which is I'm the secretary, so I was thinking meeting minutes and sending out agendas. But when we looked at it with permaculture eyes, we noticed
Some stuff, so I mean, we had water kind of orientation too, so we
Yeah.
noticed a lot of where the runoff stuff was happening, especially with the parking lot, where the roof catchment had potential to collect water. I think what it was, they recalculated 14,000 gallons based on 4 inches of annual rainfall.
14,000 gallons of usable clean water falls on this roof per year, where we have no water.
Was the soils on the landscape were kind of were
Not normal.
not normal. Yeah, they were very much probably brought with the kirk grass. That was the sod that was brought
Yeah.
here, and then underneath that was typical Nevada, kind of very calcium rich, lychee-ish kind of like silt, silt and clay type.
Mhm.
Very, very, very alkaline.
Did anyone notice the sun energy this morning?
It was the trees and the
trees.
existing biology here. Which was
The
mulberry
trees
slug.
told us a lot of stuff. The trees and plants told us a lot of stuff, like the soil,
Little
the
crabgrass
wind
growing up
direction,
there, side and,
prevailing wind.
Yeah.
Mhm. So also like to think of it, my question is asking, what does water want? So when I want to build a garden or I want to build anything, I don't ask what I want. Most people will say, oh, I want to grow tomatoes. I hate tomatoes, by the way. They are so gross. And don't even bring me one. You're like, oh, you just haven't tried my heirloom. I'm not gonna like it. I hate tomatoes. I like tomatillos, but not tomatoes. Okay, whatever. But what we often think, what do I want? I want grapes and I want chickens, and I try to come onto a site and ask, what does water want? What does water want? What does the earth want? What does the soil want? Because I bet we can work together and we can both get what we want. It's just another perspective. It's so weird how that happens. This is a Penny. Penny Livingston is my teacher. Also Connor's teacher. You just got to finish your PDC with her. And the question that she introduced to me when I took my PDC with her was, what do I really need to live? And I just contemplated that for a couple of weeks. Because I have in my mind, what do I need to live? I don't know if anyone has ever gone through losing everything. I've gone through it 3 times recently. Just life circumstances. Because of my mental health, I ended up on disability for a while and I had to take time off of work to heal. And I lost everything several times. That's the time when I realized what I need to live. It's not quite the list I have, when life is going really well. yeah, I need my car and I need Netflix and, you know, I need all these things. But really, the things that we need to live, it's a very simple list. And it mostly turns out to all be natural stuff, natural living system relationships. But that's one thing I like to contemplate every now and then. I mean, more and more these days. What do I really need to live? What do I need to be happy? And it's, yeah, same things plants need. What? Sun, water, air, friends, a little attention every now and again. So simple. Nutrients, nutrition. Yeah, it's so simple. But we make it very complicated. What's that quote that Penny says from Bill Mollison? The problems are complicated, but the solutions are embarrassingly simple. This is just one of the things, some of the things we think about in permaculture. Oh, there's a couple of these binders. These are going to be classroom binders, and they'll be available as a resource as we work through the class. So there's 2 of them for now. Maybe we'll make more. I didn't think the class was going to be this big. But we're gonna just start having resources, and all these resources will end up on the website too. So if you hang in with us for these classes, all of the information will be available on the website. But some of the things we're going to talk about in this beginning month, talking about permaculture, we're going to talk about functional analysis, inputs and outputs. So if we have a chicken, the chicken has all sorts of inputs, needs. We need to feed the chicken, we need to house the chicken, we need to give the chicken friends and water and, you know, what do they eat? I don't know what chickens eat. Bugs and whatever they want, kind of, right? They eat anything. And then they have outputs. What are all the outputs? They have eggs and feathers and poop. And I mean, I'm sure they have more outputs, right?
Yeah.
Meat.
If you have that kind of relationship with your chicken.
Yeah. And in the functional analysis, we look at the inputs and outputs for everything that we've got going on and try to match them together. So the outputs of one thing become the inputs of another. So the output of the chicken as poop would be the input into compost. The output of meat would be the input into my stomach. We're also going to look at
Output of your stomach.
the output of my stomach becomes pee and poop, nitrogen and more nitrogen. Yay. So ethics and principles. Next week, we're going to get more detail into ethics and principles, zones and sectors. We look at zones and sectors in permaculture design when we were designing. Where are we going to put things? Where are we going to put the raised bed? The first walkthrough of this land, we thought we might grow things in the front. The sun is on that side, right? That's the south side. That's the north. The north side is the cold side. So we're going to put the farm on the south side, right? But when we, we'd have to cut down the trees, and I like the trees. And when we looked at the solar aspect for this site, we do get sun in the back. But we had to arrange the beds in a particular way to get access to the sun. But we didn't sit in the back for a year to know where the sun was every day of the year. We drew this chart. And so we'll spend a day where we're learning this chart in our body. Or we can do it right now. You want to do it right now? Stand up. Everyone stand up. Polar angle chart. Summer here is this red one. This is the other direction. That's north. That's south. We're going to paint one of these on the ground so you can see this. The sun rises at about 60 degrees on the eastern horizon, which is over there, and sets to 70, 300 back there. I don't know if you could stretch your arms that far back if you do yoga, maybe. And it rises to a height of 75 degrees. 75 degrees is like there, almost up at 90, not quite. So if you take your arm at 60, and then you go up to 75, that's how far the sun goes up. And then it goes all the way to 300 when it sets. That's the path of the sun in the summer. Like that. You want to know where the shadow is going to be coming off the building in the summer, you could just put your arm down the other way. And when you're standing and pointing at the top of the building, that's how far the shadow is going to be. Winter, the sun rises at 120, which is like out that way, and sets at 240, which is like out that way. Rises and sets over there, and it gets to 30 degrees. 30 degrees is like right there, maybe. So you could do the path of the sun in the winter, rises here at 120, gets to 30 degrees, sets over here. You want to know where the winter shadow will be? It's way over there. So you can use your body to figure these things out. You can sit down. And we got to stretch. Permaculture is basically just about designing relationships and optimizing relationships. So we use different exercises and ways of thinking about things and ways of analyzing things to design relationships that are more interconnected. Okay, so just some of the inspiring ideas. I meant for this to be a whole section. It turned out to be one topic. Some of the inspiring ideas in permaculture. I love natural building. I don't know if anyone has ever had the chance to sleep in a natural build. Where was it that you got to?
It was in Colombia.
In Colombia? Was it like what kind of building?
It was an earth dome.
Earth dome. What was it made of?
They had a lot of lime deposits, so we were able to waterproof it with little lime and actually outproof.
Yeah.
It was, just the native soil that was there with what they stuffed the bags with.
What does it feel like?
The room itself, it definitely stays cool in the day and gets warm in the day. Just a really cool aspect of it.
Yeah.
And just the landscape I was in was so pretty, so it was just flawless.
The thing I love about natural building, and I didn't put any pictures in because I just didn't get there, that you can design them to be so beautiful. We have square everything and live in cubes. And with natural building, you could design curves and shapes and sculpture. You could live in a museum if you want and make your house so beautiful. It's less expensive and it stays cooler in the summer and warmer at night. And it doesn't hurt the earth. And it looks beautiful. Why aren't we doing this? It used to be that straw bale home used to cost about 1/3 of the cost of a stick built. Now it's about half the cost of a stick built home. Same size, same square footage. But much nicer. And with straw bale, the R value on a straw bale is really awesome. I mean, that's like a whole thing of insulation.
Cost maybe half, but your
Savings over the lifetime of the house, huge, if we consider my NV energy bill. No, I don't know if anyone is, it's bad.
I called them because I thought that I was like, I don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
the difference that it made, and they were like, yeah, the price is double for each unit. So I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah. So what this whole inspiring ideas ended up all being water, of course, for me. Rain gardens. rainwater harvesting technique. They're using it a lot in Tucson, Arizona. Super simple. Basically, instead of building things this way up as a mound, build it that way so water can go in. We build everything. If you start looking around, paying attention to pretty much anything in a city, it's a mound. The house is on a mound. The median has a mound. The right of way where there's plants or whatever is a mound. Water goes right into the street, then becomes a flood and polluted. It's just building it the other way so the water has a place to go. And that is a rain garden. And over time, you can have plants growing just off of rain without any external output of water from Las Vegas Valley Water District. That's very expensive as well, and getting more expensive all the time.
Like in this case, this burden, how often does it rain?
Tucson gets like 3 times more rain than us, I think. Yeah. Oh, that's
They're in this
2 to 3 times more water, which is still desert.
So then these plants are definitely native plants.
Oh, yeah.
The plants are definitely native plants. Yeah.
Get the water that.
Which, used to live only on rainwater before we intervened.
There is a good example of this at the Extension Botanical Gardens.
There is.
They have a kind of a natural plant wash where it's just irrigated only by rainwater runoff that comes from the parking lot. It was designed by M.L. Robinson and well, they're the master gardeners there. Gail Brandy's, who's a master gardener, she's got a wildflower project that she uses, and she's got something bed just like that in her front yard. And it's all native wildflowers. She doesn't water.
And depending on how much rain you get, it doesn't have to be all native plant. Because we have so many hardscapes in urban areas, depending on where you live, areas that get more water can get quite a lot of water coming off the roof, enough that they could have rain barrels, cisterns, provide their own drinking water and potable water and landscape water and laundry water with just the rainfall, but we don't get quite that much here. So we really are looking at native plants and this for our life. Rainwater harvesting on a broad landscape. So these are things, we'll go more into this in the water section of the class, but you can put earthworks on the landscape. And these are earthworks that Craig Sponholtz teaches, and they can help reduce runoff, reduce erosion, and harvest water. And then they kind of blend into the landscape. You can see a little patch of rock on the after picture, but barely. But there's a lot of work that went into this landscape, but it heals over in several years. And then it just looks like it was always like that, like nature. So there's a wonderful rainwater harvesting techniques for the broad landscape.
These are not unique to permaculture. They've been practiced by Indigenous peoples, especially in the Southwest.
Not just the Southwest. They were practiced by everyone, everywhere who wanted to just live. Yeah, this was normal. But we are starting to rediscover that everything was tended though, and everything was managed. Native people knew this all along. So it's not like we, were just rediscovered by Columbus or something, but we knew this all along. We have a relationship with nature. We are nature. In the Owens Valley, the Paiute people there have swales, ancient swales, and they rediscovered them in this generation, in our generation. And swales, water harvesting earthwork. Yeah. It's a ditch that harvests water instead of sheds water off of the landscape. And that valley, the Owens Valley, where the people lived, had so much water. The people called it Payahunadu, the land of flowing water. Now, if you go to the Owens Valley, you're not going to see flowing water. It just to give you an idea, it's the valley next to Death Valley. It's got no water. And that's us. That's LA. I could say us because I did grow up in LA. LA drained the Owens Valley to supply LA when they were building. But this is why we're here. Because we're all gonna, the problem is the solution. And if I was the problem, I can be the solution. So this is a really famous example Jeff Lawton designed in Jordan. Project was called Greening the Desert. Before and after, this after landscape, only rainwater. Producing lots of food, very successful. Also, they get hotter than us and they get less water than us. And it's by the Dead Sea, Dead Sea, things are dead there. But harvest a little rainwater and that changes right away. This is Tamara in Portugal, designed by Sepp Holzer. This is exactly the same landscape. You're looking at exactly the same place. Sepp Holzer is a master of water retention landscape design. And I had the honor to be able to learn from him and work with him. And he designs amazing water retention landscapes. Tamara Desert, it's in Portugal, also gets hot. But this lake is supplied only by rainwater. And the lake has terraces and it supplies food for an entire community as well. The terraces get flooded with inundation on the lake when there's rainfall. And that's how the plants survive there.
What was that first thing you said?
Sepp, S-E-P-P, Holzer, H-O-L-Z-E-R. Yeah, totally look him up. He's awesome.
That was someone who- the guy who did the greening the desert thing.
Jeff Lawton. Yeah. Yeah.
That's like.
Yeah. I got to take classes from him too. Every water expert in the world I am seeking out to learn from. Like I want to learn from every single person, everything I can shove into my head to be useful. Loess Plateau in China. They restored, I don't even know how much it is, 2.5 million acres, I think. They restored an entire watershed. Before and after picture. After is about 3 or 4 years later. Wow. We're talking about restoring entire watersheds. You know the Yangtze River in China? It's called the River of Sorrows. And one of the reasons it's called the River of Sorrows is because the runoff that comes from the land that goes into the river makes the river so full of sediment, sometimes you could walk on it. It's like a wet mattress. And so that's why they did this project, to reduce runoff that goes into the Yangtze River. It has also restored the livelihood for many, 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 many people in this watershed who had no livelihood before because it was barren land, not producing anything. And now there is local economy again. This, you can find the documentary. John D. Liu did the documentary on this project. L-I-U. Loess Plateau. So from the smallest landscapes, a tiny rain garden in your yard, all the way up to entire watersheds, we can harvest the water in dry lands and bring nature back. And we can do it in 5 years. I'm gonna say 5 years because it's Las Vegas, okay? And life is rough here. We have 4.19 inches of water and it's hot. But if we got on this today, if we restored every watersheds, this is what's causing drought. This is what's causing desertification. This is what's causing wildfires. This is what's causing food shortages. This is what's causing our energy prices to rise. This is what's causing climate change. If we can change it, 5 years, 10 years, even say 20 years, a lifetime, a human lifetime, that would really be worth our work. We could restore every watershed. But we have the capacity to do this. They built this with shovels. We have excavators and lots of people that need jobs. So I see millions of green jobs, green ethical jobs in our future, restoring our ability to live on this planet. And so, real quick, because I know we've gone a little over time, this is what we're going to do here at the Indian Center. These are the things that we're going to do together. We're going to get a yield, one of the permaculture principles. That is my first icon radish. I am still so proud. I'm not kidding. I carried that thing around like a baby for days. Just cradled it, took it everywhere, took it to the market. Icon radish. I had never grown anything in my life. I grew up in LA, very urban, and I didn't even know that, like, I thought pickles were a plant. I thought there was a pickle plant. And then when I found out they were cucumbers, I was in shock. When I was really young, I didn't know that meat came from animals. I thought it came from the store.
A lot of adults think that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, wow. So I was just so proud, but we're going to get a yield. We're going to make seed balls. We did this as an activity, but I am a fan of gardening illegally. Garden everywhere. Garden without permission. Guerrilla gardening. So I like doing seed balls for that. We're going to do seed saving here. Seed rematriation. Cultivating deeper relationships. We're definitely going to grow mushrooms. That was a mushroom class with Sepp Holzer. Hopefully we'll get to do some natural building. I have a vision in my head of an Indian center that is naturally built. Like I want straw bale, cob, I want a cob dragon pizza oven, I was saying. that breathes fire. And what rammed earth?
Render, yeah.
Yeah.
They've got examples of that at Springs Preserves. You guys go out there. You should check
They
that
have
out.
some good natural building at Springs Preserve. And yeah, I would love for this Indian center someday to be all natural building. We're gonna make some medicines together and salves and tinctures. I am an herbalist as well. I love herbal medicine, and we're gonna be growing medicine and making medicine here. We're going to learn to read the landscape, and we started with a little bit of that today. But as this course unfolds, we're going to tell you what the landscape has been teaching us, and we can learn together from the landscape as we start looking at it and observing it over time. We're going to plant water. We're going to plant water, and we're not going to just plant water here. We are going to tip the balance in Las Vegas and become the vocal advocates for water harvesting and gray water use in Las Vegas, because it has to happen. And if it happens, we can see the rewards. We can see a shift in our watersheds for the Colorado River in our lifetime. Totally. We're going to restore watersheds. We're going to repurpose technologies to benefit the earth and each other. This is an old solar, what was that? Satellite dish? Repurposed to boil water in that pot. So you can have tea instead of watching. But do watch Hulu. Did anyone see Prey last night? You can watch it in English or Comanche. All Indigenous cast. It's a part of the Predator lineage. And oh, wow. I have a new hero. I need to develop a battle cry. Before I do the TEDx, I'll do that battle cry. Yeah. We're going to heal stream erosion. These pictures are all from classes I've taken or been at, or, permaculture things I've done with people. We're going to learn to tend our tools. John promised us he was going to teach us to make our own tools. We're gonna relax. That's Pandora Thomas,
Mhm.
to relaxing
Oh,
on the
yeah.
cob oven after a day of learning. We're gonna sheet mulch. We're gonna sheet mulch a lot. And you will learn what that is, but it's basically water harvesting and soil building and a garden, edible food forest magic. And it's so simple. And all your Amazon boxes, save them, because we're gonna need them for the sheet mulch. We're gonna be fermenting our harvest. This is fermented salsa that I made with tomatoes, but I'll eat them if they're fermented. We're gonna learn to survey the land. You're gonna be able to learn how to do some of these things like swales or rain gardens in your yard with the tools that you have available to you. So we don't have to hire an engineer to engineer a water landscape for us. We can do it ourselves. And we're going to learn how to do it in this class. We're going to heal the community. This picture is from the Doizaketa Community Project. The cattail eaters, Paiute people up north. And on this day, we built cold frames, and the elders came out and the children came out and all built them together. And when we were building at the end of the day, some of the elders said that they hadn't grown food since before boarding school. And I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on with boarding schools right now in Indigenous nations. We have known this all along, but other people have recently discovered that there's children buried at boarding schools all over Canada and the United States. And that just breaks my heart. I don't want to start crying, but that just breaks my heart. But that day in the garden, I realized that this is how we're going to heal. There are so many things that we've lost as Native people, but kind of all of us have lost the same things. And when you just get your hands in the soil and start growing again, things come to life. Not just the plants, but mostly, things inside. We can heal ourselves and we can heal our community. And I totally believe that. Totally believe that. We're going to reuse every drop of water if possible. It takes time to get to that point, but we're going to do it here. I love this sign. This is at a permaculture site in California. We're going to rethink the rules. In my case, I will be breaking rules and maybe laws at some point.
Civil disobedience.
If the law's unethical, I'm not going to follow it. And some places where water harvesting used to be illegal, it's now legal. LA, City of Los Angeles, we worked on that project in the Owens Valley. LA, Department of Water and Power did not want rainwater harvesting. There was 1 year, not too long ago, where LA Department of Water and Power, they get 1/3 of their water budget from the Owens Valley. The rest comes from Colorado River and the Central Valley in California. They steal water from everywhere for their pools and lawns. They grow their lawns so they can yell at their neighbors to get off their lawns. That's what they're stealing water for. There was 1 year they got 0 gallons of water from the Owens Valley. 1/3 of their budget comes, they got nothing 1 year. Right after that, they adopted allowing and encouraging plot scale or like yard scale rainwater harvesting. So things can turn very quickly. Thirst is very compelling to help decision making. So where there are rules that need to change, I'm here to help support moving in the right direction for Mother Nature. It's the right time right now, right here. We're going to work together, and we did a lot of that today. And thank you for helping set up this whole classroom. And, we're going to continue to work together in the same way on the landscape and doing everything that we do, learning together. I'm learning as much as you guys. I've never grown a single thing in a raised bed in my whole life. I've grown in every other natural medium on the planet. I've grown in rain gardens and terraces and swales and hugelkultures and sunken beds, but I'm never in a square. So we're all going to learn together, and we all have something to learn together. So it's just a wonderful thing. So now what? We have 3 more sessions this month. And they'll be in person and available on Zoom. We're gonna get this technology thing more worked out more sophisticatedly for next time. And then this will continue. There'll be 24 classes over the course of the year. Oh, next week, ethics and principles, and we're going to install a drip system together. That'll be our hands-on work. If you've ever wanted a drip system, or don't know how to install one, want to learn how to install one, we're going to learn together. So we've ordered all the supplies for a drip system. All the supplies we have also priced out in a spreadsheet from local places that are the least expensive option. So if you want to do it, we've priced out the least expensive options to do this. And we're going to do it together and learn together. So then we're going to build a raised bed the next week. Same one that's out back. We're going to build another one, but we're going to do it together in the class. And then the last week, we're going to have garden art, doing some garden art together, making signs and making art for the garden. We were going to have these cards here. I don't know where they went. I lost them. But if you do the sign-in sheet, we will get the information that we need. If you want to be a part of the email list, or if you want to volunteer, make sure you get on the spreadsheet and opt in. And for these cards, we used to have these cards and I lost them. We gather the same information on these cards. The art for these cards was donated by Indigenous Nouveau. I have where's my scarf? Can you see if I put my scarf in that crate out here? They are Indigenous artists. And so if you check them out, they have some really beautiful things. And she's donated her art. Here, you can pass this around. I just love it. This is a silk scarf from Indigenous Nouveau. They just have some beautiful art. She makes leggings, she makes regalia, ribbon skirts, beadwork. So check her out. She's a supporter of this work for us. We have a Facebook page, Las Vegas Permaculture. There's a page and a group. All the events come out on the page. It'll have all the Zoom links and all that. And you could chat, ask questions, collaborate in the group. Here at the Las Vegas Indian Center, we're going to develop the website. We're going to have garden content on the website. So we're working with the web developer with that right now. We're also on Instagram. I don't understand Instagram because I'm older, but it's there if you know how to do that. And not available this week, but and when we have more staff here, we have Karen's Den, and Karen was a dear staff member here at the Indian Center who passed away recently, and it was her vision to have this den. And so we have a store here in the Indian Center, and Indigenous artists have, local Indigenous artists have their work in the store. And in the future, when we have the staff to staff it, the store will be open. And if you want to support local Indigenous artists, we have Karen's Den, which supports our artists. I always give gratitude to all the people I've had the chance to learn from. Permaculture is like a lineage thing, and the relationships are my favorite thing, I think, in permaculture. The teachers that I've learned from are my closest friends and my allies and my supporters, because it can get pretty intense and stressful. When we're losing a foot of water in Lake Mead, I get pretty stressed out. When I watch the news, I get pretty stressed out. I get hopeless periodically and give up. I mean, like every 2 weeks, I give up and tell me I'm giving up. I'm going to quit. I can't do this anymore. And so I always turn to my teachers and my community to help me, because boy, this is the hardest work there is. It's also the most rewarding. And else, what else am I gonna do with my time on this planet? I might as well make it better. I don't know if you guys know Masaru Emoto. He did these experiments with water where he would freeze water with intentions. Sometimes he would do prayers or just tape a piece of a message onto a thing of water and then freeze it. And then he'd look at it under the microscope. And when he offered beautiful intentions, the water would freeze into beautiful formations. And when the intentions were ill, then the water couldn't form a structure. Yeah, remember, we're mostly water. And the way we hold our mind, every moment matters. And it really matters when we're working with the earth, because the earth responds to the energy. I mean, I don't mean this in a hippie way. It really does.
Mhm.
You know, they did an experiment with herbs, herbalists collecting herbs with gratitude and offering, you know, good intentions and respect and making a request. May I gather your medicine? And then and then they analyzed the medicines in the plants. And when good intention and requests were made and respect was given, the plant had more medicines, more alkaloids available in the plant. So nature responds to us. And that's all I have. I'm sorry we went a little over. It was a little disorganized this time, so. Thank you.
I think something else that's interesting about that water experiment is that he also goes in to explain why when you cry
Thank you.
and you're frustrated or you're experiencing pain, those tears hurt because they look like a virus under a microscope.
Oh my
Versus
gosh.
when you cry tears of joy and stuff like that, they look like snowflakes. So it literally doesn't hurt you. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks for coming out.
Well, yeah, it's
Party crying
So
so good.
yes, exactly. That's
Yeah.
why you
Literally get it out.
Yeah.